Perhaps the most anticipated car reveal of the season is going to be Mercedes W14. 2022 was the Silver Arrow's worst year since Michael Schumacher's last season on the team. Mercedes fans are eagerly awaiting the reveal of a car that will give Lewis Hamilton the machinery necessary to win his record-breaking 8th world title, allowing him to retire in peace. Is that going to be this year though? We're going to fill you in on everything we know about Mercedes' 2023 Challenger and see if the W14 has what it takes to be a title contender. So don't go anywhere. Like a well-written murder mystery novel, Mercedes has been teasing us with their 2023 car for what feels like an age. Before the 2022 season was even 3/4 complete, Toto Wolff was talking about changing the philosophy of the W14. The DNA of the car is going to change for next year. That's clear. The Austrian was quoted as saying. Wolff also said the narrow car may return in 2023, and that a change in DNA doesn't necessarily mean that our bodywork is going to look very different. There was plenty of talk back and forth about what this meant for the W14. There have been plenty of opinions shared online about the W13 and what made it struggle so much. Many people pointed to the side pods as they were so obviously different from the rest of the grid. That is a very narrow view of Formula 1 car design though, and while how the side pods worked in the overall aero design may have been a problem, they were not necessarily the problem. Like I said, there have been many opinions shared online about what the changing DNA means for the W14, and I'm going to offer you another. If you're a regular watcher of our channel, you'll already know this as we've gone into depth about it in the past. But a changing the Mercedes car's DNA will mean a change to the suspension system and probably the chassis. If you want to know the exact details behind it, then check out our other recent video about Mercedes when you finish this one. Shortly before factory staff disappeared for the Christmas break, Mercedes hit its target of getting the W14 fired up at Brackley before the holidays. In a short video published by Mercedes, the team teased the firing up of the car, but made sure to reveal no clues about potential changes to its design. If you haven't seen the video, it's basically just a load of people standing around in a workshop looking serious while an F1 engine sound gets played over the top. The engine doesn't even sound that good, but perhaps I'm just romantically remembering the old V10s. We do now have an official release date for the W14. It's to be launched on Wednesday the 15th of February during a live digital event broadcast across all of the team's social media channels. But what can we expect from the reveals? Well, hopefully a lot more than we got last year. 2022's reveals kicked off with Red Bull showing a car that was basically just the FIA show car, but with a Red Bull livery over the top. They got absolutely torn to shreds by the media and other teams for not revealing their actual car, and it was a pretty massive letdown to be honest. I don't blame them for doing it. You don't want to give away too much to the other teams, but still, it was bitterly disappointing. When the Mercedes reveal came about, we all thought it might have been the real thing, apart from a tweak here or there. That was exciting. There was loads to talk about. It was also a bit of an FU to Red Bull for being so shy with their new car. They managed to trick us all though by hiding their zero-pod concept. They were so committed to the deception that they didn't even test their actual car until the second 3-day test of the season. The car they brought to Spain at the end of February was an old version that didn't feature the slimmed down side pods. So while our fingers are crossed for an exciting reveal on the 15th of February, we're also very prepared to see the W13 with a new coat of paint. In a recent interview, Toto Wolff said that despite its resemblance with its predecessor, the W14 will be full of surprises. The last time I saw it, I thought, oh, this looks the same as the W13. But here's hoping it's not the same. I'm pretty much like you. I go into the wind tunnel and it looks like this year's car, but they say to me it's very different underneath. It's about the airflow. It's about the weight distribution. It's about the aero map. Wolff says that the changes implemented last season on its W13 were not readily noticeable from the outside. Our car fundamentally changed mid-year, he said. We changed the concept, but we couldn't see anything on the bodywork. Remember what I said about the suspension and chassis being changed? This is another hint to that. Beyond the car's aesthetics, Wolff says Mercedes' focus is on developing a competitive and more comfortable machine for its drivers, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. I think we have a much better understanding of what the problems were, explained the Austrian. We've been peeling only a layer of the onion, layers of discovering more issues and more problems, but I think we've come to the point that we understand pretty well why the car is not performing. The correlation at least is there for some tracks, so it's all in the fine detail of how can we make the car work out aerodynamically. How can we improve the ride and make it more fun? I think if we're able to solve that over the winter, at least we can provide a stable platform to the drivers and we can develop it from there. I love the use of the onion in Wolf's analogy, because the W13 really was the Shrek of the 2022 grid. The peeling back of layers has apparently led Mercedes to their gearbox and how it's arranged within the car. Mercedes will make changes to their gearbox with a different arrangement of the critical components of the rear suspension. A Formula 1 car's gearbox is built around the rear suspension, so any changes to the gearbox require changes to the rear suspension as well. Or any changes to the rear suspension require changes to the gearbox. Basically, one can't be changed without the other being changed. Of course, Mercedes didn't need to peel back any layers to find the biggest problem with their car: porpoising. It was all Lewis Hamilton and George Russell could talk about for long periods of time last year, and without solving it, Mercedes will struggle again in 2023. The bouncing forced Mercedes to raise their ride height well above the desired levels. No matter how many claims Toto Wolff made about the car's speed at lower ride heights, Mercedes just couldn't get it there. Part of the issue here was within the structural integrity of the 2022 car. In fact, the large open floor space at the bottom of the W13 was particularly flexible at the ends. This flexibility created variations in the airflow under the car, which was a contributing factor to the car's aggressive porpoising. To counteract the phenomenon, its thickness of the underfloor has been increased. While that may be a relatively easy fix, it will cause an increase in the weight of the W14. This year, the minimum weight has been reduced by 2 kilograms to 796 kilograms, meaning Mercedes will have a big task on their hand to shed the extra weight their floor has gained. That is already a lot of information that Mercedes have revealed about the W14, but they aren't done there. We know the rear suspension, gearbox, and the floor are going to be changing, but they have also told us that improvements are going to be made to the engine. It was a pretty accepted opinion that Mercedes' latest engine was underperforming compared to Honda and Ferrari. The Renault engine is only used by Alpine, so it's a little harder to judge. The technicians, who are directed by Hal Thomas, the same bunch of people who fired up the engine before Christmas, are convinced that their performance will be in line with Honda and Ferrari in 2023. A massive effort has been made to optimize combustion in collaboration with Petronas, also improving consumption efficiency thanks to a new formulation of the fuel. The engines have now been homologated, meaning the design can't be changed except for reliability purposes. But that doesn't mean the programming that controls how they run can't be fiddled with, or the fuel that is put into them. If Mercedes have managed to gain even a percentage point of performance for the new season, then expect Aston Martin and Williams to make moves up the grid as well. The final bit of information that's been revealed, though this one is from rumours that apparently have sources within the Mercedes factory, is that the rear may be less tapered. The back end of the W13, behind the side pods, became incredibly thin towards the rear wing. This is apparently changing for 2 reasons. The first is for aerodynamic reasons, with a flat section at the level of the rear suspension, forming a T-shape at the rear to increase the efficiency of the diffuser by exploiting the beam wing. The second is to try and have less of the floor exposed to forces from above that caused flexing around the edge of the skirt. Will any of this work though? Will Mercedes have been able to outdevelop Ferrari and Red Bull over the winter break and return to competitive form? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And if you want to check out more content on the technical side of Formula 1, then click the video on your screen now.